morning, gentlemen. I'm going to talk to you on a topic which is a bit out of the ordinary. It's not an ordinary topic. I'm going to talk to you about a historical necessity in world history, and that is the survival of the fascist and military regimes. Why this is important is because we have a neighbor, that is Pakistan, which is having a military regime, and this regime has been ruling Pakistan since 1958. That was the time when General Ayub Khan took over Pakistan by a military coup against Major General Iskandar Mirza, who was the president. And as per reports which I have is that he was woken up early in the morning at about 5 o'clock, and a pistol was put to his head by a person called Brigadier Yahya Khan, who later became the chief of the army and then the president of Pakistan, and told, look friend, your game is up. You want to survive? You want to live? Get in the first plane of British Airways and go to London. And don't come back. So Mirza saw the writing on the wall and he left. That was the start of what is called the military dictatorship and the militarization of Pakistan. बट बिफोर आई से एनीथिंग फर्दर मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि जितनी भी मिलिट्री रिजीम्स हैं या फैसिस्ट रिजीम्स हैं, हिस्टोरिकली दे हैव नेवर सर्वाइव्ड. दे मे सर्वाइव फॉर 20 years, 30 years, बट अल्टीमेटली उनका अंत आ जाता है. एंड दिस इज़ अ पॉइंट विच पाकिस्तान मस्ट बेयर इन माइंड, बिकॉज ऑल मिलिट्री रिजीम्स एंड दीज फैसिस्ट रिजीम्स हैव एंडेड. द बिगेस्ट एग्जाम्पल इज देयर इज द सोवियत यूनियन. Now in 1917, आप जानते हो, Lenin led a revolution, a magnificent revolution I call it, the famous October Revolution. और उसमें क्या हुआ? He overthrew the Tsar, and finally the Tsar was shot and dead with his family in Siberia. I think ये एक बहुत बड़ा crime है, which the Communist Party has never been able to explain or justify. And after that, the Communist Party took over. They united the old Russian Empire, that is the Tsarist Empire, and created the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics. But these lasted just about 74 years, and I think in 91 or 92, the entire country, that the USSR, broke into 18 independent countries. And that was the end of the USSR, and a very important counterpoise to the Americans was destroyed. This is not the only case. Let us look up to what happened to Italy, where a fascist regime took over and the army was in power under Benito Mussolini. It was a romantic issue when in 1922 Benito Mussolini led what is known as the Long March of the Black Shirts to Rome. I think it was more bravado, but the king buckled, he lost his nerve, and he invited Mussolini to form the government. And Mussolini, what did he do? He led the country to doom, and ultimately he was hiding from the public before he was captured and shot dead along with his mistress. That's one of the facts of history, and you can't do it. That the fascist regime didn't survive. The same thing happened to the fascist regime in Norway. There's a chap called Quisling, and he was a critique of Hitler, and he took over power. And ultimately, at the end of the war, he was hanged by the Norwegians themselves. And then you know what happened to the Nazi regime in Germany. Adolf Hitler had to commit suicide. So, gentlemen, what I'm saying is these military and fascist regimes have grandiose schemes, but they fail. And I don't think Pakistan is going to be any better. They are going to suffer very badly also, because they also are into a fascist regime. And one may say they are not fascist and they are having semblance of democracy and all that. Is a lot of BS. Pakistan is basically a fascist state which nurtures terrorism, terrorist groups like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, the JK Liberation Front. They are all part of the Pakistan Army, ISI, which is giving them a lot of bread and butter, and they survive at their whims. And they carry out terrorist attacks in Kashmir in India, thinking that they will bleed India with 100 cuts. That was the policy of General Ziaul Haq, and he lived with that policy and he died with that policy. I mean, he was just blown to smithereens in a bomb attack. There are some very good commentators from the Pakistan side who have been commenting on so many negative issues in Pakistan, but nobody's talked about this issue of the Pakistan army, which basically is fostering fascist policies in Pakistan. Nobody's talking about them. None of the Pakistani commentators and even Indians, I don't think, talk about it. They keep talking something else, X, Y, Z. But the core issue is, though they don't profess it, they say we are Islamic, but the regime has the trappings of fascism, that is intolerance basically, and you can see how the minorities are suffering in Pakistan, and it's a very terrible situation. This forceful conversion of Hindu girls in Sindh to Islam and forceful marriages, I mean, there's no end to it. And don't forget that in 1948-49, the population of Pakistan was 30% Hindu and Muslim Sikhs, which is now reduced to 2%. And whoever this commentator in Pakistan, whom I like very much, I wonder if he'd like to comment on these things and how the Pakistan regime is basically a fascist regime. They are going in for policies which are fascist by nature. What is fascism? It's an ancient Roman doctrine that is, when there is anarchy, it can only be driven away by a strong military rule, or in other words, a regimented rule. This is fascism, where there is no individual freedom. I don't think any freedom is there in Pakistan to criticize, for example, the Pakistan army. You know what happened to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto? He is hanged for a crime he had not done. But Bhutto, of course, was responsible for a lot of other crimes, like the breakup of Pakistan. But nobody bothered about that, and nobody bothers about it even now. Nobody's bothering or talking about it. And nobody talks even in Pakistan about the hanging of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. This is the very sad part of the whole situation. Nobody talk about that. They want to talk about it. And then, of course, the death of Ziaul Haq, blown up in a bomb attack. And what happened to good friend Musharraf, who was sentenced to death by the Lahore High Court. And then he ran away, and finally the death sentence later, of course, was set aside on pressure from the army. But then, these are the facts which happen. And now we have the Pakistan Prime Minister sitting in, the ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan sitting in jail. A lot of people don't like Imran Khan, but मैं एक बात कहूँगा, इमरान खान ऐसे आदमी है जिन्होंने एक पंजाबी में कहते हैं ना छितर मारा है to the Pakistan army. He's had the courage to do it, and for that he is sitting in jail. I still feel, I think they will not try to execute him or murder him or kill him, and he'll come out and perhaps things may change a little bit. But Pakistan, during the last almost 66 years of military rule, both direct and indirect, has led the nation to the abyss of no return. Now, when a Pakistan army takes over, or army takes over in any country, they want to perpetuate the rule. I wish the Pakistan army could have taken a lesson from the way General, or rather Field Marshal Kemal Mustafa, also known as the Ataturk, acted in Turkey. He abolished the caliphate, and all the members of the caliphate, I think 60 or 70 people, were exiled and told not to return to Turkey for 25 years. That is number one. All their wealth was seized. And number two, he went about changing direction of Turkey. Turkey is a 99% Sunni Muslim state. And what did he do? He brought in secularism in the constitution. That's a very big thing in a Muslim country. And number two, he wanted to emulate the Europeans. And as far as I know, when the women during his regime used to be wearing the long black shrouds, the soldiers would go and cut them up to knee length so that the women lose their shyness and become modern. And that now Turkey, if you make a visit to Istanbul, is more modern than, say, Paris or Italy. Now, another thing you must remember, that you have a look at the Turkish dramas, which are so popular. They're translated into Hindi and Urdu and very popular in India and Pakistan. And you get a glimpse of what life is there in Turkey. Because these dramas and pictures are a good picture of life of a nation. Like Bombay films do give some, a picture about what Indian life is, what the Indian culture is. Same thing with the Turkish dramas. And if you see them, you will realize that Turkey is a very modern state. And its income is about 6 times more than Pakistan. In contrast, the Pakistan army has been going down, or rather I would say leading the country downhill. The generals there didn't have the acumen, the charisma, the patriotism of Kemal Ataturk, and they were interested in just lining up their pockets. Ayub Khan, I think he started off very well, but then finally when he decided to have elections, he found that his opponent was going to be Fatima Jinnah, that is the sister of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and when he came to know that she's going to win the election, he rigged the election. I mean, he just made some fake votes here and there and won the election. That was his downfall, and then he started the war against India and lost, and he had to go, and I think he had a very terrible time. But I told you of the man who had held the bullet, the gun, to the temple of Iskandar Mirza, that is Yahya Khan, and he became president. He was a drunkard man. I don't think he was fit to be president. I don't know how he was made the GOC in chief, first of all, and how he became the chief of the army, the Pakistan army, because he had not any vestige of professionalism and he lost the war. He was dominated by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Pakistan broke up. Then Pakistan had a tough time for about a decade till Bhutto was hanged, and then we had a man who come in called General Ziaul Haq. Now he was the antithesis of Kemal Mustafa Ataturk. Absolutely opposite. Whereas he wanted to make Turkey into a modern state, this man wanted to go back to the old Sharia. And he enforced the Sharia in so many acts, which came under what is known as the Hudud Ordinance. And I can tell you, gentlemen, the sad part is that till date, this ordinance in Pakistan has not been abolished, superseded, and some watering down has been done. That's about all. And nobody wants to talk about it, But it's there on the statute books. He was a boycotted man, and I think the only way interest he had was to remain in power. मैं power में रहना चाहता हूँ. That was the entire game. And ultimately, you know what happened. And he had got Zulfikar Ali along with the corps commanders like General Chishti, executed Bhutto, and then he had also put his wife and daughter under house arrest, that is Benazir Bhutto, till of course he had to face the grapes of wrath. And what was that? He was blown to smithereens. It's not a happy moment to talk about it, but that is the fact of history. Then we had General Musharraf, who ruled for about 11 years, another stupid man. This man had an excellent chance, and I think he was an admirer of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, but he led Pakistan down the drain. He just wanted to perpetuate his role, and I think he had a very dubious role to play in the assassination of Benazir Bhutto, who was blown up in a park in Rawalpindi, like the first Pakistan Prime Minister was shot dead, Liaquat Ali Khan, in the same place. So, gentlemen, what I am coming down to is that the Pakistan army has converted the Pakistan state into a fascist state which doesn't believe in pure democracy. I mean, if somebody tells me the last general election in Pakistan was fair and square, what will I do? I'll die laughing on a bed of nails. I mean, it's so silly that somebody should talk about the Pakistan army conducting elections. In fact, you see, they had decided that they would make Nawaz Sharif the Prime Minister, but Nawaz Sharif went and lost the election. That also is a fact. So, gentlemen, we have now a very, very interesting situation in Pakistan. That what is going to happen next? The previous army chief, General Baj was a good man, but he was interested in lining his pocket. And there's so many articles in the Pakistan press that after he became the chief of the Pakistan army, he became malomal. Malomal means he became rich. How did he become rich? Well, let there be a commission inquiry to find out. But he wanted peace with India, I'll say that much. Now we got General Munir. Now, he's a mullah general, but I'm not very sure that he's really interested in anything, and he wants to just mark time seeing what things are happening, because he can't take power himself now with the Americans breathing down the neck of the Pakistan political establishment. So, gentlemen, आगे क्या होने वाला है? As I have already told you, the fascist states have all been wiped out, and even General Franco's fascist state in Italy collapsed after he died, and Spain is now a monarchy, constitutional monarchy with a king and an elected parliament. Fascism per se, if you see it in Hitler, if you see it in Romania, where a big problem was there, or the communist countries, Norway, and fascistic policies which were followed by the Japanese, they collapsed, and they had to pay a terrible price when the Americans dropped 2 atomic bombs on them. Pakistan always keeps on saying we are a nuclear power, we are a nuclear power. Wow, it's a lot of bullshit. Because nuclear power means what? It's not a one-sided game that you are a nuclear power and what are you going to do? If there are 40 bombs we're going to throw on, say, your enemy, and the enemy throws another 40 on you, the enemy will survive because of its size. Well, Pakistan ceased to exist on the world map. I don't think the people really understand all this. So it's not a joke, to keep talking about nuclear power and all that. And the only way forward, I see it, is if the Pakistan army can be caged. But ye hoga nahi, it's not going to happen. And the net result is going to be, I think, the breakup of Pakistan. I think this is a historical necessity and it's going to happen. Pakistan is going to break up in at least into 4 states. I see it. Azad Kashmir, the so-called Azad Kashmir, that is Pakistan occupied Kashmir, probably will become independent. And then, of course, Sindh and Baluchistan, and then the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province could become independent, leaving the core Punjab as part of Pakistan. And that will be the end of Pakistan. I hope it doesn't happen, but this is what looks like to happen. Many people are talking that India will capture and induct Azad Kashmir into India. I don't think that's going to happen, and neither the Indians are interested to go and get Pakistan occupied Kashmir into India. They don't want it because you don't want more trouble. We already have trouble with the Muslim majority in the valley in Kashmir. You can't compound it by getting the Pakistan occupied Kashmir as part of India. So that's not going to happen. India is not interested. But as I told you, the seeds of fascism, as I just told you, historically most of the regimes have collapsed who followed this policy, and Pakistan is no exception. It will not be long before the Pakistan army will have to face the bullet. Well, I hope, gentlemen, let's see what happens. If you like my video, please share it with your friends, and I'll look forward to interaction with you more. Well, as I told you, I'm a senior group captain from the Indian Air Force, and I took an early retirement, and I was a project director with the United Nations, a senior vice president with one of the biggest companies in India, which features the Forbes list, and now I'm in Singapore. In addition, I'm a writer. I've written 22 books, and they're all available on Flipkart and Amazon and Kobe and other sites all over the world. This just gives you an insight as to who I am. My father was senior officer of the Air Force, and myself, my father and great uncle who served in the Second World War as a captain. He was a doctor, have served for nearly 100 years with the Indian Armed Forces. I hope you like this background of mine. I really don't talk about it. It's not something which you just talk on every video, but once in a way I might remind people, because one of them asked me, what are your credentials to make this? Well, gentlemen, I hold also a postgraduate degree in military science with a MBA and a degree in law. So I think I'll close this, and with the hope that you're going to listen to more of my videos. I'm enjoying myself, and take care, and God bless.